your story as a designer.
First of all, welcome everybody, and I'm so excited to share my story and hopefully give you some insight and maybe offer some help, that you'll have some clarity about what you want to do, whatever path that might be. So, I'm first of all born and raised here in the city. I never left. Most people like to go, and they like to go to New York or LA or Europe or Texas or Florida. And I decided to stay here because I loved Boston and I really wanted to make it work here. I graduated Fashion Design School in Newbury Street in 1977, and I worked in the industry, which means I worked for somebody else, a manufacturer. Back then it was still pretty big. In Chinatown it was called the garment district. There was a garment district back then, which no longer exists. But I worked for a manufacturer called Jerry Marshall Sportswear in Chinatown for 5 years, and that's where really I got my base knowledge of cutting and doing manufacturing and sourcing and doing duplicates for the salesmen and going to New York and selling the product. I really learned a lot about how manufacturing is done. And then he closed his, we moved to Brockton, but then he closed his business because everything went offshore, and that the demise of the garment industry that I knew it in Chinatown died. There were so many companies that were there. But it was a path I knew I wanted, and after 5 years of working for somebody, I just decided I was going to start my own business. So I was a cocktail wait. I got a cocktail waitressing job at night, and I started because I had to really still make money, and I started during the day making some garments, and I took these garments and I literally went up and down Newbury Street, 1983, and I started trying to sell them. And there was a store on Newbury Street that took my things on consignment. It was called Javion, 156 Newbury Street, I'll never forget it. And they sold them. And so then they offered me a situation where I could move into that boutique. I had a folding table as a cutting table and one machine, and I could cut and make whatever I wanted and sell it there, and I would give them rent and pay some electricity. So they were making money, but whatever I sold was mine. And that's really how I started my business, was in the back room of that store in 1983, July of 83. And I would just stay there around the clock cutting and making clothing because I did it all myself. I did go to Fashion Design School in Newbury Street, School of Fashion Design. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It is a great school, but it gives you kind of an impetus about how to do it. In the 80s, there was more openings to go and take your stuff to New York, to Bendel's and Barney's and Bergdorf's, and show your stuff to try to sell it. It's a little different now. It's harder. And so I kind of I forged ahead. Long story short, I had ebbs and flows. I was in a showroom in New York for many years. I sold my product into specialty boutiques all over the country, but I was doing all the work. I was the pattern maker, I was the cutter, I was the stitcher. Never left the studio. Did that for many years. And then the bottom fell out. For most of you would be very young or not around yet, but there was a first crash before the second crash, and everything just shut down. And so I had to regroup, and I kind of withdrew from New York, and I started just doing custom, and I just sold out of my studio. But for a while I was in wonderful department stores. I was in Bonwin Tellers, I don't know if any of you remember that, Bullock's Wilshire, just wonderful, wonderful stores. Now, that sounds all fabulous and very exciting, and being in all those places. The bad news was I had no clue to what I was doing business-wise. Not one clue. Because when I went to school, that wasn't encouraged. The business side of fashion was never encouraged. How do you keep your books? How do you keep a budget? How do you have proper accounts money-wise? How do you pay your bills on time? That I didn't know any of that. And I did get into trouble. I mean, many times my electricity went out, and many times my phone got shut down. This was before cell phones, because I just ignored the bills because I had to work on the next dress. Well, you can't do that. And the reason why I wanted to speak to you was to talk about the business of fashion. And I've taught for many years, and I say it to the students, and I say it now. Being in the fashion industry is 85% business and 15% creative. That's just the way it is. Unless you have lots of money and have other people do it, and which is not norm. The norm is you're doing everything, you're wearing many hats. You need to know how to run a business. And I'm here by hook or crook. I'm here by, I just pushed my way through. I took loans out, ignored the bills, never, just thought, oh, it'll get paid someday. Well, that's not, you can't do that. You can't do that. I had no sense of order. I had no sense of how to make things organized, and it has been a process. I've been in business since 1983. Yes, I have come full circle. Obviously, I'm still here, and I survived, but I suffered along the way. And it is so important when you get out of school or you want to start and you have this great idea that you have to say, okay, now I'm going to take my creative brain and put it aside, put it on pause, and now I've got to sit down and say, okay, what is it going to take to make your business happen? Are you going to do it alone? Are you going to have a partner? Are you going to have family involvement? How much time can you put into it? Is it going to be part-time in the beginning? Is it going to be full-time? You're going to dive with both feet? You have to remember, bills will never go away. Bills never go away. They continue to stop. So it sounds so wonderful and nostalgic just to say I'm a fashion designer and I have a line of clothing and I'm selling, but in the back you still have to remember that everything you see is a bill. I tell students, you have insurance to pay for, you have electricity to pay for, you have people who help you part-time you have to pay for, you have buying the fabric, the machinery, the thread, the shipping. It's just endless. And there are days, you sit there and you forget that you're saying, am I a fashion designer or am I running, a store? Am I running and many days I'm running a store, but it's okay, and that's okay. I know that I'm a fashion designer, and I know I'm a very good fashion designer, and when I present the collection, for me is like Christmas. That's my Christmas. That is my birthday, and that's New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, all roll into one, is when I see the collection walk down the runway. And then I say, wow, this is why I do it. When you see all the designers on television, you have no idea the backstories. You don't know if they have people funding them, because you see them at all these parties, or you see them doing all kinds of things. You don't know if they made licensing deals, because that's what funds their business, the licensing products. Classic story is Michael Kors. He's classic. I don't know if you're familiar with that brand, but if it wasn't for this company that came and saved him and licensed his name into handbags and sunglasses, he would not be around, and he will be the first to tell you, because his clothing line was not going anywhere, and it wasn't making the money, it was losing money. And that's what saved him, and that's what made him a household name. So sometimes it takes that. Sometimes it takes somebody that will back you and be your private partner and fund you the money. But again, they expect to get paid back. They expect, a return on their investment. There's only so many dresses they can wear. You need the right person to be your partner. I originally, when I first opened my retail store at the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, I was very fortunate. I had a friend. She believed in me, and so she gave me the initial money to open up that boutique, because I did not have it. All my money was into fabrics and the machinery and all of that. She said, I will give you the money to open up this store, which she did. but then she did not realize the work it was to run the business. She came from a very comfortable background, and did not realize the day-to-day drudgery of running the store, and after a year said, I can't do this anymore, and I had to buy her out, and I had to pay her back. It took me several years, but I did it, and I paid her back. So it's not meant for everybody. They see, oh, this is gonna be great, we're gonna have fashion, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna go on buying trips and all that. The buying trips are, like doing that, it's just like, it is fun, but it's hard work, and you're exhausted because you have to make so many decisions of what you're gonna buy, and it's not just, oh, I'm gonna go and pick out pretty things, you have to be smart. Will this sell for my customer base? Will this, there are
Who
things
is my customer?
Pardon me?
Like you have to learn your customer.
Right,
Yeah.
so, that's a good question. So, one of the things when I decided to go into retail was I had to decide who was my customer. And when you're starting out, you want everyone to be your customer. When I first started out in '83, I did everything and anything. You wanted a bathing suit, I made a bathing suit. You wanted a muumuu, I made a muumuu. I made everything, because you have to make money, and you're starting out. You're young and you're starting out. Then you realize, oh, I gotta scale back. I gotta kind of fine tune who I am and what I want. You will learn that, who your customer is, and that's okay if some have to leave you. It hurts, but then that's okay, because that's going to define who you are, and you will get more people. Oh, I go to Denise because she does this, and I know she does this really well.
So it's okay to let customers go.
Yes.
Let them go.
You have to, in order to be better at what you really want to do. Of course I can make a bathing suit. I'm not going to make a bathing suit. My time is too valuable now to make a bathing suit. I'll send them to someone who that's all they do is make bathing suits. That makes you a smarter person, is when you know what, I don't do that anymore, but here, call this person, that's all she does. But if you need an evening gown, you need a beautiful dress and jacket, then I'm your girl. You need great pants, because, then I'm your girl.
Tailoring,
all that stuff. So there are a lot of things I do now, but there's a lot of things I don't do anymore. Price point. Where your price point's gonna be. Everyone thinks they're gonna get thousands of dollars for their garment. That's not gonna happen. Again, what you see in the magazines and what you see on TV, that's like 1%, less than 1%. And most of the time it's for exposure. Okay, so you have to say, how much do I have to make a day to survive? And it's all math. And so yes, while my clothes I think are worth thousands of dollars, and there's several pieces that I do get several thousands of dollars for, it's just 1% of what I sell every day. My average garment is under $300. That's what goes out the door every day. Many of those price points. But then when I get my mother the bride, or my mother the groom, or I get a special event, and I say, okay, well it's $2,400 or it's $2,800, then that's okay, because it's a special thing, and then it becomes fun. You have to know who your customer is, really know who your customer is, and you can't waver, because every time, and I've made that mistake, when you go off that railroad track, you shoot yourself in the foot, and you say, why did I do that? Why did I do that? And so you have to know who your customer, or who you want your customer base to be, and where your price points are, and what's going to set you apart. What is going to set you apart about whatever it is that you're doing? I don't care if it's sneakers, jewelry, a belt, sunglasses, a jacket, whatever it is. What is going to set you apart that customer's going to want to come to you? You have to look, and you have to do your research, and you have to see. For me, what I find a little frightening, because I'm a little older now, is the internet. Anyone can go online now and get whatever they want. When I was starting out, there was no such thing. People had to come to me, had to come to the store, had to come to the studio to find the product that they want. Now they just click and they go online. So one of the things I told Donella was I had to remodel my business in order to survive, because all these beautiful clothes that we're making are sitting on the racks and we're not selling. because people, the way women shop is so different now. They don't feel like they need to spend $350 on a dress and $550 on a jacket. Do you know that my jacket prices are the same as they are today as they were 10 years ago? And I sell very few of that price point today than I did 10 years ago. 10 years ago, $450, $550, not a problem. Dresses $350, not a problem. Now, if it's, I have to keep it under 200. I have to keep it under 300 in order to sell a lot of dresses. They don't want to spend that kind of money on a regular basis because they can go online and get that a design or whatever. So I had to remodel my business. I had to say, okay, what can I sell? What can I buy that's going to attract that customer? And then have them say, oh my God, your prices are so reasonable. That's what you want to hear. Not like, oh my God, you're so expensive. I am not Chanel. They're not coming here to buy Chanel. That's different. Or Giorgio Armani, or any of those really high-end designers. They have so many other products that support their brand, and you can attest, because you represent a lot of those brands. So, Chanel, they don't have to sell every day X amount of dollars in clothes because they have their perfume, they have their handbags, and they have their jewelry, and they have their sunglasses, and they make a much higher margin on that product than they do the clothing. So that's why they can get away with selling a dress for $3,200 out of wool crepe, and I can only do it for $350. So I am not Chanel. I don't try to, I make sure that my product is made just as nicely, but I don't even try to even go there. The other thing about the business of fashion is you have to be willing to put in the time and put in the effort and have a plan and say, okay, don't think that this is going to happen overnight. If you succeed overnight, you're going to fail overnight. Just as fast as you rise, you'll also fall because you're not prepared for what's about to happen. I always say if someone came to me and said, Denise, we want you to do blah 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 for the movies, I can say yes now because I'm prepared. I know what I need to do. I know what's going to go into it because I've done over the years all of that, of the background work. So for anybody wanting to do anything, you have to be willing to put in the time, and I always say this phrase, you have to more than love it. You have to more than love it. And there are days where you don't feel anything is happening or anything is getting accomplished. And there was a saying, some days you're the bug and some days you're the windshield. And when you're the bug, you feel like shit. You're not always the windshield. So that's normal. That's normal. There are days over the winter when nobody came in, day after day after day. Do you know what that does to my brain? It freaks me out. I freak out because nobody's coming in to buy not even a necklace because of whatever's going on out there, but yet the rent's still due, the insurance is still due, Comcast still due, that gets shut down, I'm screwed, the phone. And so you have to know how to handle yourself inside here when those days happen. Or even if you don't have retail and you're just wholesaling, what do you do when you don't get any orders day after day? No one's calling you to place that order and you have a wonderful product. You got to prepare yourself for that. And you have to know that, and then you have to say, okay, what are the things I can do? Maybe you need to reach out to your customer. And I'm bad at that too, but then I'll get onto the phone with the customer. I'll send them a cute little email. I haven't seen you for this. Oh my God, I've been meaning to come in. Most of the time, they'll answer you back and they go, oh my God, I'm so glad you emailed me. I've been meaning to come in. And I'm like, wow, I should have been doing this a lot longer. You have to, on the days that nobody comes in here, you have to start thinking, what else can I do to get business in here? Send them this is where I didn't have this when I first started the business, but now I can. Send them pictures of things. I was just thinking of you. This is going to be perfect for you. Or I'm just cutting a new product. Can I send it for you for your approval? Cost you what? Shipping. Big deal. Whatever it is. Even if it's music. Even if it's whatever it is. you have to do so much now to get that customer to want to be loyal to you. And all of this you have to do at the same time. It is juggling so many balls in the air, you know, that's, and you have to have a temperament for it, and you have to have the mentality for it, and all I say again is when you have your runway show or your presentation, that is the Christmas day for you, that is the icing, you know, but every day, I get in here early, I'm in the back room, my other room, and you're welcome to go see it, it's a mess, but you can go see it, you know, it's my cutting table, all my machinery, my patterns, my fabric, all that, that's where I'm working all the time, you know, just, whether I'm making something, cutting something, tailoring something, so, anyway.